open letter to Creepshow Art, Jimmy Snow, and other so-called social justice allies. I'm not mad, just disappointed. As a person of color, we rely on you guys to get the word out there, to call out things in the world that are wrong. But when you go back on your own word, okay, when you go on anonymous websites and post racist, homophobic, transphobic things, when you protect someone who uses their mental health as a weapon to hurt others, uses their mental health as an excuse to hurt others, then your message becomes kind of moot, doesn't it? Kind of useless, right? Because that just gives, harmful people more ammunition to go, oh, look at these social justice warriors. They don't even know what they're talking about. They don't even know. See, look at Creepshow. She's going behind people's backs and shit talking them. She's just a terrible person. These social justice warriors have no idea what they're doing, do they? And I mean, I can't blame them for doing that, because it really feels almost like it's a game for them, for these types of influencers to go out and say the right things. But when it comes to actually doing them, they falter. And of course, this is more Creepshow Art than Jimmy Snow. But even you, Jimmy Snow, it too, Jimothy.
Yeah, Jimbo!
Even you brand yourself about being inclusive and open-minded, but then you support someone like Gabby Hanna, who is quite literally the opposite of that. I don't know, Jimmy Snow said something about how he was friends with all these really controversial people that you wouldn't expect, as if that's such a cool thing to do. And I mean, I get it, it is good to talk to people who are of different beliefs than you, and I do understand where he's coming from, because his logic with that, I think, from my understanding, is that he himself used to be a very controversial and sort of crappy person, but it was through the help of people who were nice and open-minded and talked to him about it that he was able to change his mind. So I completely understand that. But, in my opinion, it really depends on what their beliefs are, and it really depends on what you mean when you say friends. I can see an ally, debating a Nazi, but if that same ally is friends with the Nazi, is getting dinner with the Nazi, is sort of cuddling up to the Nazi, then it just makes me wonder, are you really an ally? And I honestly don't really know why this keeps happening, why these influencers that we put so much of our hope in, that have whole channels and brands dedicated to calling people out, end up disappointing us. But I have a guess, and my guess is that A, they're either not educated enough in these topics, and or B, they are educated, they just don't really believe in them, and or C, they don't have any skin in the game.
When you got skin in the game, you stay in the game.
And I think now, we as a community on YouTube are really trying to get together and figure out, well, how do we know we can trust the person on the other side of the camera? How do we know they actually believe the things that they proclaim to believe? And this is important, right? We need people with principles, because if we don't believe in these same principles, it makes our message seem hypocritical and false. And, I really want to take a second to really emphasize how disappointed I am in these creators. As a person of color myself, as someone who has been called overly sensitive, as someone who has been called a social justice warrior, which, by the way, when did it become bad to care about social issues? Anyways, as someone who was told to shut up when I called out one of my coworkers for saying something rude and insensitive, it's disappointing to see these influencers sort of throw around these issues like it's a game for them. Oh, I believe mental health is important. Oh. But do you really? I'm just gonna make a lot of money calling out these terrible people, but I don't actually care about them. What, you think it's actually hurting people? And there's no real way for me to sugarcoat this, especially with people like Jimmy Snow, who seem educated in these issues. I don't think Creepshow Art was ever really educated in these issues, at least formally. And I'm not saying that you have to be, but I think there's definitely a difference between someone who spent 4 years writing essays about social issues and constantly debating them and learning about them and talking about them in like a university setting, and someone who read a few articles online about why racism is bad, you know? And that doesn't mean that that person who did go to university is perfect or unproblematic. And it also doesn't mean that the person who hasn't gone hasn't spent their time researching and reading and understanding these topics and listening to minority groups. Really listening. But if I were to try to guess what makes one person credible over another, I do think education does correlate, as well as your personal experiences. Now, I understand that Jimmy Snow is part of a minority group. He's pansexual, and so was Creepshow Art. She was bisexual, I think. And when it comes to those issues, it was very clear where they stand. Even with Shannon, I don't think she said anything biphobic other than that weird lolcow comment where she said pansexuality is woke bisexuality or something. And someone tell me if I'm right on this, but wouldn't that be more panphobic than biphobic? I don't know, I'm not pan or bi, so I'm not very sure about this. Think about it like this. If Gabby Hanna was saying panphobic comments, do you think Jimmy Snow would still be her friend? I'm just asking. You know? If Gabitha Hanena was calling people homophobic slurs or using demeaning homophobic comments in sort of the same way that she's hurling sexist comments towards Rachel Oates, do you think Jimmy Snow would be as forgiving of her? Do you think he would? And I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I am just asking. So the issues that directly affected them, they have a firm stance on. But when it comes to issues that don't directly affect them, like racism, like transphobia, and in Jimmy Snow's case, sexism, they go back on their word. And it's hurtful. Because the rest of us, who may be part of those groups, who may not be lucky enough to have a big platform, have to deal with that. Now, I've thought about making YouTube videos for a long time because I'm quite passionate about social issues. But I always figured, oh, well, we have someone like Creepshow Art, we have Jimmy Snow, like, how could I ever possibly contribute? And historically, it was the white YouTubers who got the bigger platforms, bigger audiences, more views compared to their BIPOC counterparts. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe times are changing. Maybe with all the events that happened last year, we're finally giving people of color a chance. We're finally letting non-traditional folk have a voice. And if you like the sound of that, if you want to warm my cold, cynical heart, like, share, and subscribe. Let me know what I'm doing right. Let me know how I can improve, in a nice way, preferably. This is my first YouTube video after all, so I'm kind of expecting it to be a little crappy. But if you give me a chance, then I will try to come at every topic with the sensitivity and care that it deserves. Or I may just add memes to lighten the mood a little bit, I don't know. Help me make YouTube a more responsible place. Thanks for watching. See you later.